Remember the first time Star Trek made you believe in the future? Maybe it was watching Captain Kirk charm his way out of trouble, or hearing Jean-Luc Picard deliver a speech that gave you goosebumps. Star Trek has always been more than just a TV show. It's a universe we love, a vision of tomorrow that inspires us. But now that universe is changing in ways that we never imagined. New captains, new timelines, new series, and movies that are warping in at maximum velocity. And it's exciting, yet a little scary. If you're a long-time fan, you might feel torn. Will these changes honour the Star Trek you know and cherish? Or will they rewrite it beyond recognition? By the end of this video, we'll tackle that very question together. Curiosity piqued? Well, it should be, because one upcoming Star Trek project might change everything. More on that soon. And make sure you stick around to the end, because I want to share something with you about our upcoming reviews for Season 3 of Strange New Worlds. Star Trek is at a crossroads. On one side, there's a bold new frontier, fresh stories, modern takes, and unexpected twists. On the other side, there's the comfort of tradition, the characters and ideals that made us fall in love with this franchise in the first place. This paradox isn't just academic, it's emotional. You and I feel it every time a new Star Trek show is announced. Should Star Trek reinvent itself to stay relevant, or keep everything as it was to preserve its legacy? It's almost like a Starfleet Kobayashi Maru, a no-win scenario for the people in charge. No matter what Star Trek showrunners do next, someone's going to be unhappy. But why does it have to be that way? Well, let's talk about change first, the case for boldly forging ahead. Believe it or not, Star Trek survives because of change. Each new generation of Trek has taken risks. Think about it. In 1987, the creators of Star Trek The Next Generation dared to launch a Star Trek without Kirk or Spock. Fans were sceptical, to say the least. How could anyone replace our beloved original crew? Yet The Next Generation became a phenomenon in its own right. It proved that exploring strange new worlds didn't require the same familiar faces, as long as the heart and soul of Star Trek were intact. Similarly, Deep Space Nine broke the mold by setting a story on a space station with a darker, serialized conflict. At first, some old school fans weren't sure about its grittier tone and ongoing war storyline. This was a big departure from the utopian optimism of earlier Trek. But over time, Deep Space Nine earned a passionate following and is now considered a classic. The lesson? Bold changes can pay off big time. Without them, Star Trek might have fizzled out decades ago. Fast forward to today's Star Trek. We're in what some call a new golden age, and it's all about experimenting with the formula. Strange New Worlds is giving us a retro adventure vibe with a modern polish, episodic storytelling, optimistic spirit, and yes, younger versions of legacy characters like Spock, Uhura, and even Kirk himself. It's a new cast wearing very big shoes, but so far most fans have embraced them. Why? Because Strange New Worlds struck that sweet spot. It feels like classic Trek, yet fresh. And then we have Star Trek Discovery, which took perhaps the biggest leap of all. It started out as a prequel with radically updated visuals, a complex serial plot, and a lead character, Michael Burnham, unlike any Trek had centered on before. Discovery wasn't afraid to shake things up. New look Klingons, surprise plot twists, and remember the Mirror Universe reveal, and eventually flinging the whole show far into the 32nd century, literally beyond any established canon. Love it or hate it, that's changed with a capital C, and it attracted a whole new generation of fans who binge modern serialized dramas. It also gave us truly groundbreaking moments. I mean, a black female lead, the first openly gay couple in Trek's TV history, amongst others as well. That made Star Trek feel contemporary and inclusive. But let me ask you, at what point does change go from refreshing to alienating? Discovery's bold moves also sparked a fierce backlash in parts of the fandom. Many longtime Trekkies felt that Discovery's tone was too dark, its technology too advanced for a prequel, or for its lore choices too. It felt inconsistent with what we knew. You might even be one of those fans who watched Discovery and thought, this doesn't feel like Star Trek to me, and that's completely understandable. For every fan thrilled by a new direction, there's another one who feels something cherished is being lost. And consider Star Trek Lower Decks, an animated comedy dripping with love for Trek lore. It was a gamble to make a Star Trek show that's basically half parody and half tribute. Some fans were utterly baffled at first. A comedy cartoon Star Trek? What is this, a joke? But Lower Decks turns skeptics into believers by proving it respects Star Trek's core even while it pokes fun. Star Trek Prodigy, aimed at kids and newcomers with a flashy CGI animated style and a young cast of characters, traditional fans could have ignored it, yet those who gave Prodigy a chance found a story full of heart that honours Trek's ideals and even brought Captain Janeway back into the fold. Two very different shows, both changes that ultimately worked because the people making them understood what makes Star Trek special. However, not every change hits the mark. Let's face it, sometimes Star Trek's attempts to evolve have stumbled. We have to talk about the Star Trek movies here because that's where the push and pull of change versus tradition often plays out in a very public way. The 2009 Kelvin Timeline reboot film was a radical change. New actors playing the legendary crew, an alternate timeline to free the story from canon constraints, and a high-octane Hollywood action style. It was Star Trek reimagined for the 21st century blockbuster era. A lot of fans, especially new ones, loved it. It made Star Trek cool and mainstream again. But some old guard fans walked out of the theatre fuming that it felt more like Star Wars with its lens flares than the Star Trek they grew up with. Then came Star Trek Into Darkness, which tried to have it both ways. A new story, but recycling the villain Khan from the past. That backfired with many fans, who felt it was an unearned twist and a poor imitation of a classic. A change that nobody asked for, essentially. The lesson here is that change for change's sake can misfire if it doesn't respect the audience's intelligence and the franchise's legacy. So where do the current showrunners draw the line? Right now, Paramount is juggling this paradox with several projects. We recently had the Section 31 movie starring the phenomenal Michelle Yeoh returning as the Mirror Universe Philippa Georgiou. It's not a traditional Star Trek story at all. Section 31 is the shadowy black ops side of Starfleet, all about espionage and morally grey decisions. This was a one-off film for streaming, and it's a huge change in format and tone. Could it have been amazing? Absolutely. Georgiou is a fan favourite anti-hero, and giving her a standalone movie was a bold choice. But it was also a risk. Star Trek has rarely focused on its dark underbelly to this extent. Will you still recognise the universe you love when Starfleet's shiny ideals aren't front and centre? That was the gamble. Meanwhile, on the series front, a brand new Starfleet Academy show is in the works, finally, after being just a fan rumour for a long time. It's officially set in the 32nd century, spun out of Discovery's far future setting, and will follow young cadets learning to become Starfleet officers. Picture a mix of Star Trek and coming-of-age drama as a bunch of bright-eyed cadets face the challenges of a post-cataclysmic future. Here's the big question: will Starfleet Academy lean into a younger, maybe even teen drama style to hook the next generation of viewers? If so, how will long-time fans react? You might be thinking, Star Trek meets Riverdale? Please no. But hold on. the showrunners insist it won't be a lightweight young adult fluff piece. They know Star Trek fans expect substance. If Academy can deliver deep sci-fi storytelling and make younger viewers feel seen, it could be a brilliant way to renew Star Trek's relevance. If it turns into a shallow melodrama wearing Starfleet uniforms, well, that could be a franchise embarrassment. The pressure is on to get the balance right. And on that note, have you ever wondered what Starfleet Academy might mean for legacy characters? Well, I won't keep you in suspense. One beloved holographic Doctor from Voyager is set to appear, bridging old and new. I think that's a smart touch that could win over a lot of skeptics. But perhaps the wildest experiment, though, on the horizon is the untitled Star Trek comedy series being developed by Tawny Newsome, who you might know as the voice of Mariner on Lower Decks. A live-action comedy in the Star Trek universe. That concept alone opens a curiosity loop in itself, doesn't it? I mean, this show was announced back in 2024 and is still being shaped, but Newsome's dream of dreams, as she puts it, is to be set in the same era as Picard, the 25th century, so that any legacy character could theoretically drop in for a comedic cameo with their original actor. Imagine a witty, irreverent Starfleet series where, say, an old dwarf or Captain 7 of 9 could show up in an episode. No de-aging required, and play off that comedy. It sounds absolutely bonkers. It could either be a stroke of genius that gives us something fresh and fun, or if mishandled, it might feel like it's trivializing a universe fans take seriously. So how do you feel about laughing at and with Starfleet? This is uncharted territory, and it shows just how far the showrunners are willing to stretch the formula. They're basically asking, can the Star Trek universe handle Galaxy Quest level humour internally and still be Star Trek? The answer will depend on the execution, but it's a testament to how much change is on the menu. Now, before we conclude, let's flip the coin, the case for keeping things as they are, or at least how we fans remember them. There's a reason that fan service has become a buzzword in modern Trek discussions. After some of the new shows encountered a lot of criticism, the pendulum has swung back in the other direction in some instances. Look at the final season of Star Trek Picard. In season 3, the showrunners basically staged a reunion of the entire Next Generation cast and returned to a classic adventurous tone. And guess what? Fans, myself included, absolutely loved it. Seeing the old crew back on the Enterprise D, cracking jokes and saving the galaxy together, it was like 1991 all over again. Picard's last season was practically a love letter to longtime fans, brimming with nostalgia and respect for the past. Was it revolutionary television? Maybe not, but it felt good. It affirmed that sometimes the best way forward is to go back to what worked. In a similar vein, Strange New Worlds has earned praise largely because it resurrects the optimistic spirit and standalone storytelling style of 1960s Star Trek, albeit with modern diversity and sensibilities. It's new, yes, but in many ways it's a comforting return to form after years of darker serialized Trek. We also see this respect for tradition in how legacy characters are woven into new projects. The idea of recasting someone as iconic as James T. Kirk can make a hardcore fan's blood run cold. After all, William Shatner's Kirk is legendary. Yet here we are. We have two new Kirks, Chris Pine in the movies and Paul Wesley in Strange New Worlds. Each time that happens, it's a gamble that risks fans' ire, and yet many fans have accepted and even embraced these new Kirks. Why? Because each portrayal, while different, has paid homage to the core of Kirk's character, his daring, his charm, his growth. It also helps when the original icon himself gives his blessing. So Shatner himself has spoken positively about Pine and Wesley taking up the mantle. Reimagining a legacy character can be the ultimate test of change versus the same. Do it badly and you get panned. Imagine a Kirk that doesn't feel like Kirk at all. Fans would riot. Do it right though, and you breathe new life into an old hero for a new audience. The fact that we can even have a debate about which Kirk is our Kirk shows how Star Trek's legacy can endure through change, not just in spite of it. So, should Star Trek showrunners make changes or keep things as they are? Well, here's the climax of our debate. Change is inevitable. Time moves on. Actors age and retire, and new storytelling technologies emerge. If Star Trek refused to change at all, it would stagnate and fade away, a relic for a dwindling nostalgia crowd. We don't want Star Trek to become a museum piece. Gene Roddenberry's vision was always about moving forward, about evolution. New blood, new ideas, and yes, new fans are the lifeblood of the franchise. But, and this is crucial, not all change is good and not all tradition is bad. The challenge, the almost impossible tightrope act for the showrunners is to honour the essence of Star Trek whilst reinventing its form. It's about walking that narrow line where you provide enough of the familiar to reassure and enough of the novel to excite. Will there always be fans who complain? Absolutely. You can't please everyone in a fandom this large and this passionate. Some of us will always yearn for the way things used to be, while others of us will cheer for every bold leap into the unknown. The paradox is that Star Trek needs both kinds of fans. It needs the foundation of loyalty and the spark of curiosity. In the end, embracing change and respecting the past are both necessary for Star Trek to live long and prosper. Change keeps the franchise alive, and respect keeps it authentic. Every era of Star Trek has had its growing pains. The transition from Kirk to Picard, the shift from Monster of the Week episodes to serialized epics, the leap from TV to movies and back to streaming, these were all risky warps into uncharted territory. And guess what? Star Trek has survived them all, coming out stronger and more diverse. It's okay for us as fans to feel uncomfortable with some changes. It shows how much we care. But Star Trek's history teaches us that today's weird new idea could be tomorrow's beloved classic. The best we can do is keep an open mind, just as Star Trek taught us to. After all, one of Star Trek's core philosophies is IDIC, infinite diversity in infinite combinations. Celebrating different ideas and possibilities. That applies not just to the aliens on screen, but to the stories and characters, and yes, even the formats of the shows and movies. While Star Trek has been charting its course into the future with the newer shows like Strange New Worlds, Lower Decks, Prodigy, and upcoming shows like the Starfleet Academy, and even the recent Section 31 movie, and whatever films will be coming after, one thing remains constant. The heart of Star Trek, its optimism, its sense of wonder, its belief in a better tomorrow. That is what must never change, even when everything else does. If the showrunners remember that, then no matter how wild or different their next project is, it will still feel like Star Trek deep down. And as fans, we might find ourselves pleasantly surprised time and again by how much we can come to love a new take on our favourite universe. So here's to Star Trek's next great adventure, whatever form it takes. Change can be daunting and staying the same can be comforting, but the truth is Star Trek has always been about boldly going. And sometimes boldly going means letting go of the past just enough to embrace a new future. It's a delicate balance, a paradox indeed, but if any franchise can navigate it, it's Star Trek. After all, starships are built to adjust course when new obstacles appear, while still holding true to their mission. Our mission as fans? To give new ideas a chance while holding our beloved stories accountable to the ideals we treasure. It's not an easy truce, but it's one worth striving for, because on the other side of that tension, there's a Star Trek that can captivate old and new fans alike for decades to come. I don't know about you, but I find that prospect pretty darn hopeful and exciting. If you still feel curious about which side ultimately wins, that's the thing. It's not a war at all. It's a partnership. And if we're very lucky, Star Trek's future will take the best of both worlds. Now, let's make sure this conversation doesn't end here. There's a galaxy of opinions out there, including yours. And you've made it to the end of the video, so that tells me one thing, that you're passionate about Star Trek and its future. So what I want you to do is join in that conversation. Hit the like button if this video got you thinking. It really helps more fans find their way here. And don't be shy. Let me know in the comments what you believe. Should Star Trek keep changing or hold on to tradition? I do read every comment and I try and reply to as many as I can. And I'm excited to see how you feel about this paradox. If you haven't already, subscribe to Hailing Frequencies for more deep dives and debates just like this. Now, I did mention at the start of the video that I had some information about our reviews for the upcoming Strange New Worlds episodes, which launched this Thursday with 2 episodes at once. Well, some of our regular viewers will know that I have a lot going on outside the channel at the moment. Long story short, I am currently performing in Shakespeare's Twelfth Night as Sir Toby Belch in this year's Cambridge Shakespeare Festival. So that takes up my evenings. But as well as that, during the day, I'm also rehearsing for the second play I'm in, which starts in August, which is As You Like It. Well, with having evenings and daytimes taken up, I won't have a great deal of time to watch the new episodes, let alone review, record, edit and upload videos about them. At least not until August, when I'll have more time during the day. But rest assured, I will be posting those reviews just as soon as I can. So upload times and days might be a little bit inconsistent to start, and I apologise for that. It is, however, all the more reason to make sure you are subscribed and that you've hit that notification bell so that you know straight away as soon as a new video is up. We have so much more of the final frontier to explore together, and I don't want you to miss out on any of it. Your support means the world to me. It's the reason I can keep these frequencies open and this community growing. So, like I say, subscribe, join our crew as we boldly go on to the next adventure. Until next time, stay curious, stay hopeful, and as always, live long and prosper.